Greetings everyone. So getting the best generals in EU4 has always been an important part of the game. It's mostly luck, random based roll of the dice, but it depends on the army traditions you have. So the higher traditions, the better generals you get. So I decided to make a test uh, with different army tradition levels to 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 see what results we can get. You can do this in the easiest way with a non-Iron Man game and using the console commands to get the tradition to level you want and the military points. So in the background you can see one of my tests with console commands. So I did my tests and put all the data in a Excel spreadsheet. I did 50 tries each time to see the results. Uh, I did it with different army traditions to see how much it increases the chances and what are the differences. So with army tradition 0, you can see I got a leader with 5 fire ones. I also, but I didn't get any with shock or any other of the modifiers. I also, just out of curiosity, tried to make as much generals as I could, and I went up to 1,000, and I still wasn't able to get a single general with fire or shock with 6 points. I only had 2 6-point generals in movement. So either it's very rare, or either it's impossible to get at such low levels. There's also seem to be some kind of a max amount of total points you can get, because at 0 uh, you could get no more than 7 total points divided in all the categories. So even in my try where I did 1,000 generals, I had around 10 generals with 5 shock, but they all had 6 or 7 points total. So it usually was like 5 plus 1 plus 1 or 5 plus 1. So there's also this cap you have to remember. And for sieges, this is an occurring thing. You will see that it's a lot harder to get the siege bonuses, and at 0 army tradition I wasn't able to get past siege level 3. So, and also with this 50 general experiment which I wrote down, you can see that more than half of the generals had 0 siege, 17 had 1, and only 4 had more than 1 in siege. Otherwise, the distribution between these seem to be more or less similar. There are some very minor differences, and here you'll see a bit bigger differences in another ones, but my guess is that it's more or less the same. It just depends on your data size, so it won't be the same always, exactly the same. So even in a coin flip, with infinite tries you'll get a similar result, but with even less and less tries it can go either way. So also what to note, with zero army traditions, the average total points each general has was 4.5. So that goes together a lot with that many of the generals will have 1 or 2 points mostly in each of the fields. As you can see, 1 and 2 is dominated over here for the main points. So in case you roll a 4 or a 5, these are very rare, and you should feel very lucky, and you should try to keep him as alive as much as possible, as long as possible. So with Army Traditions 10, nothing much changes. Actually, the total went a bit down compared to the 0, but I suppose that's just due to the size of the sample. I also didn't get any above 3 fire, but I did get one with 5 shock. Well, it really depends on how often you can get them. So for example, with Army Traditions 0, I got like 10 with 5 shock out of 1,000. So 1 in 100. If it's 1 in 100, then 1 in a 50 you could easily go without one. So 5 shock or fire leaders are very rare. And I forgot to mention that for movement I did actually get a 6 point leader at 0 traditions, but I'm not sure at how many generals I got it, but it was close to 1,000, so super rare. Otherwise it's still 1 and 2s mostly here, so nothing that much changes. So with Army Tradition 30, the total went up by a point, so you can already see some changes. There are more trees in here, but still 1 and 2s are mostly dominating here. But I got 2 5-star generals, so still an improvement. At 50 it increases the average by another more than 1 point, so things are looking better. And at this stage you could also see that 3-point generals are more popular than 1-point generals, which is a good thing. At my 50 sample, I wasn't able to get any 6-point generals in fire or shock, but you can get them at these levels. So but they are still very rare. Even the 5-point generals are rare, so it depends. In this category, I suppose my best was this one, which had 3 fire, 5 shock and 2 movement. It really depends, but especially in the early game the shock would probably be more effective. So with 70 I had my first 6-point generals. The total is increasing so slowly as well, and you can see that it's the trees. You could say the trees are dominating now, somewhere in the middle, because with shock I had quite a few 4s, with fire quite a few 2s, so somewhere in the middle if are the trees which you could expect quite a bit from this. And you can also see that siege is always lagging behind, but even at 70 tradition you only get a few with 3 and still quite a few with 0, and for the others the zeros are very limited at this point. So let's jump to 90. So the main improvements are that you barely get any zeros for fire and shock, but you still don't get much more 6s, but you start to get a lot more 5s and 4s, which are very good. So even if you want to get that 6 and 6, those are super rare, but you could, for example, see here you have a 4 and a 6, which is a very good general. You can get some 5 and 4s, and so still very good generals, but you still can get some poor in the middle, like 2 to 5s with movement. Yeah, the most thing I could see where the worthless generals come from is when they get 5 or even 6 movement, maybe some siege, but very little shock or fire. Of course, these generals can be good for sieging, because if you get a 6 movement general, you could limit your attrition, especially if it's a larger fort than level 2, and you need a lot of units, but still those are generally quite useless otherwise. And let's move at 100. Still was able to get a 0 in shock, so these still can happen, and it's a very interesting one, not so usable actually with fire, shock and 4 movement, but still better than nothing. And for sieges still 2s are dominating. You start to get some 4s very rarely. I also did 1,000 generals on Army Tradition 100, and I wasn't able to get any 6 siege generals. I don't know, maybe I haven't seen one, maybe they are possible, just very rare, even rarer than that, but otherwise it seems impossible to get. I didn't get any 6 and 6 with fire and shock in my 50 general sample, but when I did more of them, I on 500 generals I got like 2 or 3 6 generals, and some 5-6 or 6-5 generals, which are very good. So, and you can see that in here the points distribute quite evenly from 2 to 4 in different categories. So that's what you can mostly expect from Army Tradition of 100, and the total has also been increasing slowly. So with larger total, you will always get at least something. So if you try to divide 11 or 20 from 11 to 15 points uh, in 4 categories, you'll always get something. So in this sample I had 15 were the largest ones, so you get a 4 2 4 5 4 and 4 4 4 3. Also a very decent general, uh, good for siegings and also good for combat. Another 4 4 3, so 3 5 5 2. So uh, still a decent generals, but the points are spread out. So that's about it. So I hope this helps in your plans. So always remember to keep that army tradition up. So even those uh, 10 20 10 extra points you lose on a random event, or that another 10 points, 5 10 points that have been decreasing over time on decay. So those are very important. So and since it's mostly luck based, because it's a random roll, uh, your chances are very low to actually get something good. So you have to increase your odds and keep the army tradition as high as possible, because of course if you test something, you can roll 50 generals, but in actual game you will probably hire maybe 2 3 4 generals, 5, no more than that. So of course you could always try reloading the game and 10 times, and you'll be able to roll quite a few generals. But if you don't do that, then you'll have to go with what you can get. So staying with the army tradition as high as possible is important. So I hope this helps. Thank you.